My mind can get so easily caught up in difficult loops. Anger, anxiety, humiliation, shame. These can and do cause me a lot of suffering. And yet I find it so difficult sometimes to step out of the reactivity of my tricky brain and into my compassionate mind. There are reservations there, fears, blocks, resistances. So how can I move from reservation to activation? Hi, I'm Dr. Stan Steindl, and whether you're hoping to activate your own compassionate mind, or perhaps you're in a conversation with another person helping them to activate their compassionate mind, the shift from reservations to activation can be helped by exploring and expressing wisdom talk. Let's see if I can explain what I mean. Say I have an altercation with a stranger. For example, the other day I was driving around a busy shopping mall looking for a car park. I turned into a lane and there was a person backing out of a car space. I quickly switched on my indicator. But the car was backing out towards me. And just as they were clear of the space, another car coming from the other direction quickly cut in front of them and took my park. I beeped my horn, but to no avail. I was angry, and so as I drove past, I gave them my most devastating glare. They gave me some sort of gesture with their hand, which I couldn't quite make out. Okay, so that was step one. An external event activated my angry self. But step two lasted much, much longer. Most of the rest of the day, in fact. That part of my brain that can remember, imagine, analyze, ruminate, that brought the external internal. The altercation was well and truly past, but it was kept present by my tricky brain. As a result, I continued to suffer at the hands of my own anger. Step three, I got angry at my own anger, and a niggling regret that I had beeped my horn and given my devastating glare started to grow. I felt bad about my anger. I shouldn't have gotten angry like that. After all, I'm always talking about cultivating a compassionate mind. I'm a bad person, unworthy of all that I say. I was ashamed. More suffering, and all as a result of getting caught up in the loops of my tricky brain. And along the way, I never quite managed to activate my compassionate mind or offer myself some compassion. In fact, if someone had said, "Hey, Stan, be a bit kinder to yourself," I may have responded, no. Something was inhibiting me from going that way. I was all caught up in my reservations. So, how could I have moved from reservation to activation? This is where perhaps wisdom talk comes in. Wisdom talk relates to exploring and expressing our wisdom, insight, and understanding of what lies behind our experience, what lies behind our suffering, not least our tricky brains, how they evolved and how they work, and how they really can cause us a lot of suffering. I understand why I became so angry. Partly it was my threat system that was activated because nothing seemed to be going right. And partly it was my drive system that was activated and I was feeling competitive and self-righteous. And I understand why I started to feel ashamed of my angry reaction. I know that the ancient function of these self conscious emotions is to protect me from social threat and protect me from being rejected or abandoned or cast out of the group. And I realized that I felt I needed to be tough rather than compassionate towards myself. At the heart of it all, I was frightened of being weak and walked over or losing or failing. This is wisdom talk. And we want to try to get there. It's not always easy to have the presence of mind to access our own wisdom talk. We have tricky brains after all. But when we discover and explore and express our wisdom talk, then we can start to shift towards activating the compassionate mind. We can also access the strength and courage that goes with the compassionate mind, as well as commit to action that will be helpful rather than harmful and perhaps help us to suffer a little less. Being compassionate is important to me. I know I have a tricky brain, and sometimes it gets all caught up in loops. But I know that this is not my fault. It's the way my brain was designed to work. I also know that I can take responsibility for how my brain works, and gradually, step by step, I can learn and grow and manage events like this better and better. So, what might wisdom talk sound like for you? What might you say if someone asked you what's truly behind your difficult emotions and your suffering? Or behind your reservations for being more compassionate towards yourself or others? And what might your self-talk sound like as you explore your intrinsic wisdom about these experiences and activate your compassionate mind? Let me know your thoughts below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I wish you all the very best as you continue on your compassionate journey.